Hello, everyone. Today we're going to do ellipse equation writing. So it's really the last part of the ellipses. You were supposed to graph the ellipses. There was 10 problems on the sheet before. So you were supposed to do ellipse homework 1, and that's supposed to be done. And now I'm asking you to follow along and make sure we're able to take information. For example, I'm taking a vertice and covertices and coming up with the standard form equation of an ellipse. The standard form of an ellipse is your x minus h over a squared, y minus k over b squared equals 1. Now, in theory, a and b could be switched depending on which way it stretches, but I just always do, if it's under the x, you make sure it's your a, and under your y is your b. So when I look at this one, if I actually just kind of sketch it, I would get 0, 10, 0, negative 10, 5, 0, and negative 5, 0. So I know my ellipse is stretched more vertically than it is horizontally. So then I know that the B should be larger than A. The other thing I pick up from this is that when I'm looking at the vertice, whatever number's the same, so here 0's the same, and the 0 is in the X spot, that I know that's my center. And when I come to the covertice, I know the 0, 0 is also the same. So when I start to write the equation, I know it's x squared, y squared, and I already know it's always equal to 1 in standard form. So the only thing we have to do is figure out how much did it go up and how much did it go down. Well, with a simple sketch, we know it went up 10, down 10, which means there's a number here that when I take the square root of it, it's 10. And so hopefully you know it's 100. And then I know from here I went 5 left and 5 right on the x-axis, which is why I'm under here, and some number when I take the square root of it has to be 5. So yes, my number's 25. So that is how I come up with what the equation would be of the ellipse. And if I went backwards, you would do the same thing, making sure your sketch matches. My center 0, 0. I go 5 left, 5 right, and I go up 10, down negative 10. And so then I get, an ellipse that's stretched vertically. All right, so now we have basically exactly the same problem. The only thing is when I look at it, there's no zeros, which means my center is not at the origin. If you wanted, you could definitely put up a little sketch to help yourself to know that it's negative 8, let's say, and I go negative 8, 18, and I go negative 8, negative 2. And then I go negative 1, 8, and I go negative 15, 8. So I have an ellipse here that obviously is stretched way more. Well, I mean, it's 15 to 1 and 18 to 2. So it's not really crazy, but it is stretched more vertically this way again, so it's more that way. I'm not going to focus so much. This does help me. I know that negative 8 is definitely how far left I go, and I know 8 is how high I go. But I can figure that out from the points themselves. If I go to the vertice and I look which one's the same, that's the same. So my center, because it's in the X spot, is negative 8. When I look at the covertices, the 8's here, so that's the same, and that's what's in my Y spot. So that's how I pick out my center. I don't really have to draw it. I can pick it out by just looking at the points. And then this is my distance on my Y. So real quick, I'm going to write my equation. It's going to be x plus 8 squared over it's going to be y minus 8, because this is negative, that's positive, all over equals 1. Well, when I come back to the vertice, I realize that this is the stretch of the y. And the reason I know it's the y is because they're both in the y spot. What you need to be careful about is positive 18 to negative 2 is a distance of what? 20. So that means from the center, I went up 10 and down 10. So again, what number, when I take the square root of it, is going to give me a 10? And again, that's 100. And then I look at this number, and I want to be careful. From negative 1 to negative 15 is a distance of what? 14. And if the distance is 14, it means from the center, you went 7 one way and 7 the other way. So what number would mean to move 7 and 7? And that's 49. And that is my equation of the ellipse from vertice and covertice. If you would, please go down here and try this on your own. I'm just going to set up. Remember, your center is going to come from which ones are the same in the vertices. Which point is the same? And is it an X or is it Y? So take a second and try to get the center by yourself. Okay, I hope you paused the video and tried yourself. If I look at the vertices, in this case, this number and this number are the same, which means it's a negative 1, but it's in the Y spot. And when I look at the vertices, the negative 6 is the same, which tells me it's in the X spot. So now I do know my centers, negative 6, negative 1. If you need to sketch, you can. It would be 1, negative 1, negative 13, negative 1. So that's going to be this distance where you're going to get negative 6, 1, and you're going to get negative 6, negative 3, and that's that distance. So I can tell this is an ellipse that opens horizontally, which means when I do my equation, A better be larger than B, or whichever one is under X better be larger because it opens this way more. So the first thing, once I get the center, I can write X plus 6 squared, Y plus 1 squared. At least let's not mess up things we can control pretty easily. We know how to figure out the center. It's whatever number's the same is our center, and then you can cross them out so they're kind of out of the problem. Then this leads you the distance on the X's because they're in the X spot. Just be careful. What's negative 13 to a positive 1 on a number line? It's a distance of 14. If I needed to, I'm not looking to move 14 one way and 14 the other. I'm going 7 one way and 7 the other. So what number, and again it's X, what number makes me move 7 and 7? 49. And then my Y distance, because it's in the Y spot, which means up and down, from negative 3 to a positive 1 is a distance of 4. But be careful. From the middle, that means I'm moving up 2, down 2. So what number makes me move 2? The square root of 4. Okay, pretty simple. I'd like you to try this. There's one more thing I just want to be able to do. Yes, there's 2 problems at the bottom. We'll do those together. But the last one is taking it out of standard and writing it in general, and general form looks like this, where we have it multiplied out. It's always set equal to 0. So my biggest problem here is that I have, remember, these are kind of like 1/16 x squared, 1 over 36 y to the square to the 1. So these are coefficients. If I want to get them out, because you see in general form there is no fractions, I'm going to have to multiply everything by something that will cancel both 16 and 36. So the number that I want to make sure that 16 and 36 both go into. So obviously I'm going to start with the bigger number and start with 36 and like multiply it by 3, 108. 108 divided by 16 is not even. You can play that game, or all I can do is multiply the 16 by 36 and I get 576. It's a big number, but it makes my life very easy, because what I'm going to do is get 576x squared over 16. I'm going to get 576y squared over 36 equals 576. But since I just multiplied them together, I know that 576 divided by 16 gives me 36x squared. I know that divided by 36 gives me 16y squared equals 576. And since there's no shift in the center, which means I don't have to FOIL anything out, the last move's just to make it 16y squared minus 576 equals 0. And that's how it is. Now, the reason there isn't an x and a y value in a standard is because there was no shift here or here. If there was, we would have also had to FOIL it out, just like we did when we had the circle, like x minus 4 plus y plus 2 equals 10 or whatever. That's when we started FOILing. If you do that, that's when you'll get also an x and a y term. Okay, I am going to leave these two where we go from general to standard for when I come back. So please, if you would, in the notebook, please try equation writing, and I would like you to try the odds. The first one, you can see the center. What's the same is zeros and zeros, so this is centered at 0, 0. But when you go here, you've got to find what's the same, like the -3 and the 10, 10. So find your center first, then the distance. So I'd like you to do the odds. I'd like you to do 7. You can ignore number 9. So odds at least 1 through 9. And then if you need more practice, you can do the evens. Also, there's delta math to work on for ellipses. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.